The world is ever changing. Our environments are prone to variation and transformation. As such, it is only natural to look for the few constants that remain. Nature is upheld by a few such pillars, aspects of existence that reappear and remain time and again. Hunger, camaraderie, competition, family. Values that stand as silent obelisks, immutable rules of nature. One such obelisk, however, has a tendency to be less silent, a tendency of making itself known wherever it appears. Violence, ceaseless violence, and the warriors that embody it. Not all environments are created equal. While we have a tendency to simply separate the world into a binary, civilized settlements versus the wild frontier, it is a false one. That other space, the wilderness, is far from homogeneous. The tender grasslands and their inhabitants may as well live on a different planet than the ruffians that prowl volcanic mountains, so different are their lives. Every biome is unique, and every ecosystem produces its own unique conditions and resulting survival strategies. One biome known to stand out is the desert. Infamously harsh, these arid wastelands produce some of the toughest warriors known to the guild. Only natural, when resources are scarce and competition is fierce. On the world as it has been mapped so far, there are two major deserts that have been discovered. The peninsular desert of Sekumea and the wildspire waste of the New World. A smaller desert area can also be found near Valhabar. While they may seem superficially similar, they all maintain their own unique ecosystems, with many species and behaviors being only found in each desert. But even in this variation, there is one constant. While the minutiae of the food chain may vary, the throne at the top is always filled by a certain family of flying wyverns, powerful monsters who stand at the zenith of desert life. The Bloss. Classified under the superfamily Cornucrania, Bloss are horn wyvern that live exclusively in deserts. They are reclusive and quite rare. A blessing for everyone, as the Bloss are both incredibly powerful and relentlessly aggressive. Despite this temperament, they are actually herbivorous and do not hunt for prey. Rather, they attack out of territorial instincts, tolerating no intruders in their domains, which can span huge areas. In fact, this need for large territories is probably the reason why Bloss are fairly rare. They generally cannot coexist near each other. There are two known genuses in the Bloss family. The first one is the Monoblos, a very elusive wyvern with some significant historical relevance to the guild. This brown-shelled beast is easily identifiable by its large ossified frill, its sharp beak, and its singular nasal horn. The Monoblos' tail, as well as its frill, are covered in various spikes and horns that further add to its fierce appearance. They are considered quite rare, and thus very little is known about their lives. Some observations have, however, been made through the efforts of the scholars of the guild. Monoblos spend much of their time patrolling their territory by burrowing underground. Like all species of Bloss, Monoblos are flying wyvern in name only. Their bodies are much too heavy to fly for extended periods, and they have only rarely been sighted hovering for brief periods of time. So the wing claws are modified into sharp digging tools, which allow for swift movement under and through the sand. The massive horn also helps in pushing that sand to the side. A monoblos schedule is equally divided between safeguarding its territory and feeding on the bloss' favorite food source, desert cactus. Monoblos territories will often be selected purely based on the number and quality of cactus patches in the area, and the wyvern defends those patches ferociously. Should a monoblos encounter an intruder, be they wyvern or human, it will not hesitate to attack immediately. The bloss family does not produce any kind of breath attack or elemental substance like many other wyverns do. Instead, they fight using their size, strength, and command of the terrain. A monoblos will enter the fray with one goal: skewer its opponent with its massive horn. A monoblos horn is among the toughest materials found in nature, its crimson hues often hidden by a strata of hardened sand. The monoblos will swing and stab with its horn, knowing that a single hit from it will neutralize most targets. Of course, a tail swipe or two for good measure are also included. But the monoblos' most dangerous ability is its speed. Despite its massive body, it can both run and burrow at high speeds, able to charge and dive at targets horn first, increasing the deadliness of its already ferocious body. They are especially adept at attacking from below, using their excellent hearing to navigate through the sandy ground before lunging out from below their target. Another weapon that the monoblos shares with other genuses in the bloss family is its voice. The screams of a monoblos are ear-piercingly loud, and have on occasion caused actual physical damage and ruptures to creatures standing too close to it. As the battle intensifies, the heart of the monoblos, one of the most valuable monster materials in existence, accelerates, causing blood to flow more violently. Once this happens, the monoblos frill lights up with a red pattern, serving as a final warning to any intruders. Leave now or perish. This pattern seems to also influence mating behavior, interestingly. While much of the ecology of the monoblos is still uncertain, its history with the guild is well known throughout the lands. In the fog-woven days of the past, when monster hunting didn't exist yet as a true profession, a band of 5 heroes arose, traveling the old continent and slaying monsters that terrorized settlements. This party, led by a wyverian wielding a sword and shield, is believed to have been the first adopters of monster hunting as a lifestyle. They brought hope and salvation wherever they went to the terrorized population that lived under the fear of monsters, and their travels eventually took them to the Shrade region. Here, on Mount Kokoto, they encountered a monoblos that had been striking fear into the hearts of nearby towns. Thus, they faced it, and while they were brave and strong, the mighty monoblos killed one of the 5, the fiancé of the squad leader. Defeated, the party ran away to lick their wounds, but the wyverian leader, aggrieved from loss, ascended back up the mountain to face the wyvern alone. After a battle that some say took 40 days and nights, the monoblos was slain, and the wyverian returned with the crimson horn triumphantly in hand. This wyverian, from then on known as the Hero of Kokoto, laid the groundwork for many of the foundations of monster hunting. At the site of his battle, a village called Kokoto was formed, which has long since served as a hotbed for new and upcoming hunters. The loss of his love is honored in guild law by only allowing parties of maximum 4 hunters to embark together. The 5th member is surely fated to die, just like the hero's love. But most importantly, in honor of the hero's bravery, monoblos hunts are exclusively posted as solo missions, as hunters must slay the beast alone to prove themselves, a tradition known as the proof of a hero. However, this ritual is not as easy to fulfill considering just how rare monoblos are. They are solitary and only live in remote regions, so it is highly unlikely to ever encounter one. Even rarer than the commonly thought of brown monoblos is the white monoblos, which can be identified by its white shell. Next to nothing is known about this subspecies due to how rarely it's been sighted. Beyond its white coloration, no obvious differences between it and the brown species have been observed. Some researchers have suggested that the pale shell allows the blood patterns on the frill to be more visible, which could have implications for territorial and mating behavior. But until more sightings occur, little can be confirmed or said about the white monoblos. The other major genus of bloss is, by comparison, much more common. This horn wyvern has a wide habitat, even appearing in the New World, and sightings of it happen somewhat regularly. This is the Diablos, the closest extant relative of the monoblos. It can be easily distinguished by a few prominent features. The Diablos shell is more sand-colored, its frill is smaller and more rounded, its tail ends in a club rather than spikes, it has two protruding tusks, and, most importantly, instead of one long, thin nasal horn, the Diablos grows two massive, thick, curved horns above its eyes. It's important to note that when the two bloss genuses were first discovered, they were wrongly called subspecies of each other due to their similarities. While many older guild texts still retain this wording, research has progressed since then, and it is no longer considered accurate. The monoblos and Diablos are indeed closely related, but they are both part of their own bespoke genus, and not subspecies of each other. One can easily see how that mistake would happen though. In terms of lifestyle and behavior, the Diablos is nearly identical to the monoblos. It, too, prowls territories centered around cactus patches. It also burrows underground using its superior hearing, and it also primarily uses its horns for defense and offense. However, because Diablos are not nearly as rare and are seen much more often, their behaviors are much better understood. For example, the reclusive nature of bloss species was generally considered a consequence of their high-strung territorial aggression, but research into the Diablos revealed a different explanation. Because of their excellent hearing, Diablos are actually quite vulnerable to loud sounds. Even moderate volumes, such as shrieking birds and desert winds, might be somewhat painful to the sensitive ears of this giant wyvern. Thus, Diablos spend much of their time in burrows and underground caves away from loud sounds, only surfacing to eat and defend their domain. Eating is a surprisingly passionate affair for the Diablos. It has been noted to be highly selective of the cactus patches it centers its territory around. Once a suitable patch has been identified, the Diablos will hyperfixate on that one cactus, protecting and nurturing it with intense jealousy. The Diablos tusks serve to both puncture the skin of the cactus as well as dig up and move the soil under it, allowing the wyvern to monitor the health of its patch. Its favored cactus patch withering and dying is a highly traumatic event for the Diablos, and it has been observed that frustrated individuals will up and abandon its entire territory altogether if that happens. While it may sound odd, it makes sense for the wyvern to have such an emotional bond to its plants. They are its lifeline, as a Diablos gets both all of its nutrition and hydration exclusively from cacti. A Diablos will go and visit its patch up to 6 separate times a day, both to feed and to work on it. Just like the monoblos, the Diablos does not take kindly to intruders. Should it sense an unwanted guest with its hearing, it will immediately go to investigate and potentially attack. Its horns may be shorter than those of its cousin, but a rampaging Diablos is still more than capable of destroying its enemies with them. Between the thick horns and the heavy tail club, a Diablos can easily kill most creatures merely by swinging around either parts of its body. And of course, it too can burrow into the ground and then lunge out for additional deadly impact. One interesting observation is that Diablos found in the New World seem to be more aggressive than those on the Old World continent. Not even the Diablos' own kind is spared from their territorial aggression. While Diablos' territories may sometimes overlap slightly, it is extremely rare to see two individuals near each other. Should two Diablos meet, they will almost certainly engage in a territorial dispute, locking horns to see who will be able to topple the other. The winner gets to expand its territory. This behavior happens equally between males and females, and only changes slightly during the mating season. When ready for a mate, female Diablos will begin to darken, their shell gradually changing color as her heat intensifies. This is the only time Diablos will actively seek each other out. This truce, however, only lasts until the mating is complete. Once the female Diablos is sufficiently fertilized, she will violently chase off her mate, returning to solitude to carry out her pregnancy. Soon after mating, the female Diablos shell will darken even further, turning her into a black Diablos. These pregnant wyvern were originally believed to be a subspecies of Diablos, but they are just female Diablos whose shell is temporarily discolored due to reproductive hormones. At the time of its discovery, variance as a concept had not been suggested, but most scholars now agree that the Black Diablos should probably be reclassified as a variant, as she fits that definition much better. This amendment is still under review, however. Black Diablos are even more aggressive than regular individuals, as they now have to defend themselves as well as their unborn young. To do that, its hormonal flush tightens its muscles and temporarily increases the Diablos' strength many-fold. Black Diablos are much more agile and accurate with their charges, allowing them to dispatch enemies quickly. More deviously, the heightened muscular control the female gains during this period allows for unusually precise fluctuations in movement speed, allowing the Black Diablos to alternate its timing and speed to confuse opponents. A Black Diablos is thus a truly formidable opponent, and it's even been observed fighting off the likes of Deviljho. Its eponymous Dark Hide's purpose in this was long considered mysterious. Many researchers simply assumed it served as a threat display to minimize the risk to the fetus. And while that is probably still true, another function of the black shell has been discovered. Being dark, it absorbs more light, thus increasing the body temperature of the Diablos. This seems to facilitate the chemical and hormonal processes that go into its pregnancy. So, the black shell seems to serve as an additional heat intake for the female. This state is only temporary. Once the female gives birth and ensures her young's basic needs are met, she will return to her yellow sand-like color and abandon her young, which will then have to fend for itself. Due to their intense lifestyle, Diablos are seen as a sort of symbol of the violence inherent to the natural world. They are the desert storm that rampages without end. This symbolic status was further bolstered by a particular incident involving a particular type of Diablos. It is said that long ago, an unnamed desert kingdom was suddenly besieged by an unknown enemy. Villages within the kingdom's borders began to simply vanish, its people massacred, and its walls shattered to dust. Battalion after battalion, army after army was sent after this enemy, and all were torn apart, squashed like bugs. A single account of their battle remains, describing a fight with a demon, a wyvern with many horns whose every pore shot out billowing hot steam. While the kingdom fell shortly after, and the story became part of guild mythology, the unnamed enemy has since been theorized to have been a deviant Diablos, now named Bloodbath Diablos. All deviants are immensely dangerous. Defined as extremely rare, abnormal individuals of otherwise well-known monster species, deviants stand out due to their sheer destructive power. The rare sightings of one generally lead to evacuation and widespread guild mobilization, and only extremely high-ranking master hunters are ever granted permission to face one in combat. But even among this most dangerous of classifications, the Bloodbath Diablos stands on the apex, considered the most powerful and cataclysmic deviant of them all. As much as a rumor of a Bloodbath Diablos being seen is enough to send the entire guild into high alert, a single Bloodbath Diablos could spell disaster. That is because of the specific way a Bloodbath Diablos is created. Every known deviant forms under unique conditions to that species, and the chances of one appearing are considered to be around 1 in a million. In the Bloodbath Diablos case, it develops when a young Diablos suffers the worst trauma its kind knows, losing a horn. The Diablos horns are its most important body part, and losing one of them would be devastating for an adult. But for a juvenile, it is an even more stressful event. Moreover, young Diablos are often too small to lock horns with adults, so the only way for a juvenile to lose a horn is to have it broken off by a hunter. Should a hunter do this, and then fail to slay the juvenile, they will regret it dearly. The juvenile will usually die soon after, as it can't compete with the others with only one horn. But sometimes, these broken Diablos survive, push themselves past their limits, propelled by one emotion: vengeful rage towards the humans that humiliated it. These survivors grow up to be many times more violent than their peers, a mix of their rage and their need to compensate for their missing horn. Decades of violence and battle cause its body to morph. The horn regrows incorrectly as a mangle of spikes and curls, its tail club becomes asymmetrical, and many of its armor shells enlarge. More notably, the constant fighting and killing douses parts of its body in a constant coat of blood and viscera, which dry and mix with the beast's shell into a deep blue coloration. In never-ending violence, motivated by an intense hatred for humans, the Bloodbath Diablos is born. Because of this trauma, the Bloodbath Diablos is one of very few monsters that actively seeks out humans in order to kill them. That is why the guild takes supposed sightings of it so seriously. A Bloodbath Diablos is a nearly unstoppable force, its twisted horn and clubbed tail many times more destructive than those of a regular individual. The many battles it has won have given it ample combat experience, manifesting in cruel and cunning maneuvers, such as using a quick roar to stun a target before immediately charging at them full force. As the Bloodbath Diablos rage grows, its body changes. Its mutated heart, empowered by many wrathful beats, accelerates faster and faster, pumping blood with such vigor that the beast's veins become visible through its shell. The Diablos go stronger and angrier in this state, using unusual attacks to decimate its foes. If there are any enemies left past this point, the Bloodbath Diablos will enrage even further. As its heartbeat races ever faster, the wyvern's body heats up, until both its sweat and the fluids mixed into its shell begin evaporating into clouds of undulating steam. This is a Diablos at its zenith, as now its deadly moves are accompanied by scorching steam explosions. In this state, the bloodbath Diablos is a true disaster walker, and only 2 hunters are known to have survived this onslaught. And even they did not actually win the fight, merely repelling the monster. Few can rival the ferocity of the horned desert warriors. Their bodies are monuments, totems to the power and violence found in the natural world. But in their wild hearts, they also hold the mundane, the amicable, the emotional. Violent they may be, within them still dwells the multiplicity of any life, and the reminder that even in danger, there is beauty and fascination. Next time on Monster Hunter Ecology. In the gurgling swamp it lurks, the light on its skull a signal of disaster. As the venom engulfs those it stalks, the mire proclaims itself. Don't walk, don't run, don't bother. It has already seen you. It's already over. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, I really appreciate it. Keep in mind, if you enjoy this kind of content, maybe subscribe, maybe like, comment, you know how YouTube works. I don't have to tell you that. And also, if you really enjoy this content, consider subscribing to my Patreon, link in the description. You get early access to every video, and you get your name on here at the end of the video. Speaking of, a very special thank you to Zion H.V. Augensen, Corv621, AJ Rivera, Alistair, Jacob Bennett, Soruka, Gengreatest, Sir Newt, Orbital, Terrador, Emperor Eevee, Rambling Robin, Lizric, Hashi, Black Ace 202, Dissy, Hubble Mirror 123, Magenta, Danilo Villavicencio, Arcturian 711, Russell, Person 212, Claire Miboon, Oak Wood Tree, Mr. Pyramid, Pide Fuego, Makot 02, Project Iceman, Peroskoko, Geo, Jamie Tate, Niels Schlatter, Mr. Meander, Iron Camel, and Courage. Thank you all, as always, and I'll see you for the next episode. Bye bye.